everyone, and welcome to another episode of
Hamo and Danny's Irish Anfield Road.
Now, obviously, doing this pod has been amazing over the past year and a half. I've had a chance to be able to discuss Liverpool, I've had a chance to be able to get guests on and do amazing things. And we've been able to bring on some fascinating guests and fascinating people. And this week is no different because we have ex-Liverpool goalkeeper Chris Kirkland on our programme to be able to chat about all things Liverpool, chat about what he's involved in, and to be able to talk football, which is what this is all about. So thank you so much for coming on, Chris. How are you keeping?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. It's been tough. I'm not going to lie. It's been, when you think back to what's gone on with lockdown, it's been an horrendous time. Really, not been able to do what we want to do. Not been able to see family, friends. It has been really tough at times, and some bad days and good days. Like I'm sure everybody's been going through the last year or so. But hopefully, it looks as though we're edging closer to some kind of normality, and we've just got to try and stick it out and get through it together. But yeah, there's been some tough times for everybody.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. As you said, it's affected everyone. I think sometimes football can be put in this sort of polarized position where everyone thinks that the life of people who are involved in football is just great all the time. But yet, I think this has been a real leveler, hasn't it? This lockdown, that it's hit everyone the same. We've all been stuck in the house.
Oh, it has.
Jobs.
Oh, it has. It's just the simple things that you took for granted before, not being able to do them, and you don't really appreciate them. Like visiting friends or going for a game of golf, or traveling 10, 15 miles to see family and friends or whatever it is. My wife's from Scotland. We used to go up there a lot. She's not been able to, like everybody, that she's not been able to see her parents for well over a year now. First time at Christmas that had not been down for 20 years to Liverpool, because we still live in Liverpool. First time in 20 years, the parents had not come down, which, it's things like that. I know that obviously there's a lot of people in them situations, but listen, we've done a year now, which is, when you look back, you think, well, that's gone quick, but actually going through it for a year, it's been really testing times, and not being able to do football, not being able to go to Anfield, not being able to see my daughter play football, or play, all the kids not being able to play football and do the stuff that they do on. It's just been terrible, but we've got to keep strong, and hopefully we're not far from around the corner now, and we can see a little bit of light.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that hopefully we will see that normality coming back in the weeks and months to come. And me and Amo know exactly what you're talking about. We both live over in Ireland, both haven't been able to get over, see our families in Liverpool, and it's just been so strange. But hopefully one of the things that this podcast does is brings a little bit of hope to people, brings a little bit of joy to people's weeks. And we want to be able to talk to you a little bit, Chris, just about your footballing journey. You said obviously you live in Liverpool, and obviously you played for Liverpool, which for us is just unthinkable, unimaginable. So we want to ask you, just in the first part of this pod, just a few questions about that. And my first question would probably be, how did it come about? Take us through, because obviously living in a big city like Liverpool, as we know, getting into a professional football team at semi-pro level at 18 is hard enough. What was the process for you going from being a kid playing football in the street and all the rest of it to getting to Liverpool? How did that happen?
Quite quickly. I mean, I was an outfield player to start with. I wasn't a goalkeeper, and I was never any good. I just used to love football. Anything with a ball. I wasn't keen on school, which I do regret now. I was more interested in any sport at all. Golf, tennis, cricket. Football. I just wanted anything with a ball. I was just obsessed with. As soon as I got home from school, I'd dump my bag. I was straight down the park, kicking the ball around, playing golf or whatever. But yeah, I was an outfield player, and I was playing for Barwell Athletic, and I was on the bench as an outfield player. The keeper got injured, and because I was the only one on the bench, I had to go in goal. Made a couple of saves, really enjoyed it. The keeper was going to be out for the rest of the season, so the manager said, "Look, will you playing goal for us? You've done well today." And I thought, yeah, I'll do that. It wasn't actually till after that. It was actually after that game, my dad put a bet on me to play for England in goal before I was 30, and I never knew about the bet at all until the day before the game. So he kept it from, so what was that, over 11 years. I never knew. It was only the day before the game, when I was 26, I got asked about it by the press, and I said, listen, I can't answer that. I actually don't know what you're on about. So I rang my dad and said, look, they're saying this, and he went, yeah, it's true. He said, but don't worry about that. So he kept the bet in the bottom of his drawer for like 11 years. So things progressed pretty quickly from there. I got into the county side. I moved to Westfield Wanderers from Barwell, then Down Sports, which was a good team in Hinckley. And then I moved to Blaby and Weston, which was a team in Leicester that I've produced some really good players over the years. Gary Lineker, I think Peter Shilton played there as well.
Yep.
So if you got to Blaby and Weston, then you were sort of doing half decent. But the manager there, Mick Pearson, Paul Dannon, I don't know if you remember Paul Dannon, used to be a Premier League referee. He was the assistant manager there, and they just went above and beyond. They would do extra with me. My dad was always taking me down the park if I wanted to, never pushed me. Even when he'd finished 12-hour shifts as a crane driver, he would get back knackered and still take me down the park or still take me to have a game of golf. So I was very lucky that I had people like my dad and obviously Mick and Paul that seen something in me. And then I got spotted by the county, I got spotted by Leicester and Coventry. I was already training with Coventry City. Already struck up a great relationship with Oggy, Stevie Grisovich, who used to train me on a Wednesday night when he was first team keeper. And then the decision come to sign for Coventry or Leicester, but because of the relationship I had with Oggy, even though all my family were Leicester fans, we lived in Leicester, I signed for Coventry. Went there. There was another lad from Newcastle that signed the same day, Steve Watson, who was meant to be the next big thing, the next big goalkeeper. He was talked about for a couple of years before, but quickly I overtook him. I think he had some, he was homesick, obviously being away, and he didn't train properly. And, I quickly overtook him, got involved with the first team, training with them pretty early. I think from about 17, I was training for them, probably a bit before, and then made my debut at 18. And things, against Spurs, against Tranmere in the Worthington Cup, John Achterberg, who's a goalie coach now, was playing for Tranmere. Which we have a good laugh about now. He's been great, John. We'll talk about that later with us, but he's been brilliant, and the club have. And then I made my debut against Spurs on the Saturday at Highfield Road, and we won 2-1. I think Teddy Sheringham, Redbroth were playing, Ferdinand, and we won 2-1 and got man of the match. And things progressed pretty quickly from there. Gary McAllister, who was obviously at Coventry, moved to Liverpool. He actually come back down to train with Coventry when his wife was not very well, so she was getting treatment back in Leicester. Yeah. So he come into Coventry to keep fit. And he's gone back up to Liverpool and said, look, you've got to have a look at this lad. Because Mac would obviously see me when I was in the youth team and then come back down and see me how I'd progressed. And then I was getting calls off Macca every couple of weeks, which is obviously tapping up. But he was ringing me saying, look, we're going to sign you. Gerard loves you. We're going to sign you in the next window. And this was like 5 months away, the next window. So you're thinking, well, a lot of things can happen and it's not going to happen. Yeah. But Macca kept ringing me up every few weeks. He said, oh, Gerard, seen you play this game, that game. He said, brilliant with this stuff. Maybe do this next time. Try this a little bit. So it was always encouraging me. And then the move come along. So I knew about it the day before. So I knew, obviously, the window was shut in 2001 towards the end of the transfer window. And I got a call. I didn't have an agent at the time. So I got a call off this agent saying, look, Liverpool are going to want you. Do you want me to do the deal for you? So I met a couple of agents, got on with Colin Gordon, his name was, got on great with him and said, yeah. So he said, right, be ready, get your bags packed. He said, so it's going to go down to the wire, which I don't know why I still can't, transfer deadline day this time, why deals get done so late when they're in the pipeline for weeks before. He's balmy, but he told me just to have my bags packed. I was in a fire and safety meeting at Highfield Road with the youth team, because I was still involved with the youth team at Coventry. And Gordon Strachan popped his head round the corner. And as soon as he did, because I knew it was coming, but I was dead nervous, and he popped me, said, Kirk, you can have a word. He took me out and said, look, we've had a bid off Liverpool. We've accepted it, but you don't have to go. We don't want you to go. If you don't want to go, you don't have to go. And I was a young lad, and I've always been a home person, always loved my home comforts. And the thought of moving away from home, moving away from friends and family was the thing that was holding me back. Not Liverpool. I've always supported Liverpool. My first game was when I was 7, standing in the Kop in 1988. So, if it was any other club, I would not have gone. And I turned down a couple of clubs before that, but it was just a pull of Liverpool, But then Oggy, so he said, listen, you're nervous, aren't you? Gordon, I said, yeah. I said, it was like, even though I knew that the bid was coming and I knew the move was possibly happening, I was like, I could hardly speak. And he said, look, Oggy's here at the stadium. Do you want me to go and get Oggy? So Gordon went and got Oggy. Oggy come in, and Gordon told him, look, Liverpool had bid for him. And he went, yeah, not surprised. He says, what are you still doing here? Why are you not in the car? Why are you not on the way up to Liverpool? And I said, I'm just worried about family and stuff. He says, listen, go and be the keeper you can be. He says, your family will always be there. They'll come up and see you. We'll always be here. So went home, got my stuff, drove straight up to Liverpool, got up there it was on a Friday, so the traffic was horrendous. We got up there it was about midnight by the time we got up there. and the physio was waiting at the hotel. Went straight for scans. I was in a scanner till like 3 a.m. Back to the hotel. They come and pick me up the next day. And Gerard Houllier was actually, and this is the man Gerard Houllier is. So he was actually back in France because it was international weekend, so there was no games. So he was back in France, and he wasn't due back to the Monday, but he flew back on the Saturday, and I got picked up in the morning on the Saturday. Me and Leona did, and Phil Thompson picked us up, and he said, "Oh, we're just going to go and pick somebody up." And I had no idea who it was. And we went to the airport, went to Liverpool airport, and Gerard Houllier walked out, and he said, "Oh, Phil, when look, Gerard, he's not due back to Monday, but he wanted to come and see you before you sign and settle you in and stuff," which is the man Gerard Houllier was. He was just an incredible human being.
Chris, can I butt in there? Quick, this is fascinating, as I say. I don't really want to butt in, but there's just something come to mind. So we're both podcast enthusiasts, and we listen to a lot of players, podcasts and how things happen. And me and Danny are big fans of the Peter Couch podcast. And what you always hear, as I say, we don't know, we're just fans, but we're the other side of it. What you always hear is that in them days, as such, the days that we were watching Liverpool, we were late teens, watching your era of Liverpool, that in them days, it was kind of the transitional period from like the drinking culture and to a proper professional type of culture. What I'm asking here is, see at that stage, like you hear about player liaison officers and things like that. So you've just said that Gerard Houllier in 2001 made a point of being that kind of welcoming you to Liverpool, stuff like that. In your career, from that was very early in your career up until kind of your latter days at Sheffield Wednesday and Preston, have you felt that at that stage there wasn't like player liaison officers and stuff like that? Because you hear
there was one there. There was a player liaison officer.
And how does that work? So it seems like getting out an apartment, getting just the little things to make you play the best football. Yeah. How does all that work, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, well, you signed for the club, and then so it was Norman Gard who was great friends with Gerard Houllier.
Yeah.
So he was a player liaison officer. So I mean, obviously for the foreign lads that move over, it was for the same for me. If I moved to a foreign country, I wouldn't have a clue what to do because things are different in certain countries. So it was more, for the foreign lads which needed that help, just simple things like, paying bills and stuff like that. They didn't know how to do it or set up bank accounts and stuff like that. So you need that. You need that. But Norman was great. He found our house for us. He said, look, these are the areas that a lot of players live. But so we actually went away from that. We moved sort of away from that sort of thing. So we come over, not far, only 15 minutes from Melbourne. But, well, the lads went to Manchester and lived in Hale or Formby or other places like that. We come over towards Ormskirk and Autumn, so it was close to the motorway for us to shoot up to Scotland for Leona's parents. It was close to Manchester, 15 minutes from training, and we loved it because it was open fields, and we had a dog at the time, so all the walking and everything like that, which is a great get out clause. So we decided to go that way, but they help you with everything you need to do, and which you do. And people say, well, that's pampered; they can do it themselves. But if I went across to it, like I said, if I moved across to a country, you lads probably had it when you went to Ireland, you found some things probably different to back in Liverpool, but you talked about moving to a foreign country, I would not have a clue what to do. And then when obviously a lot of lads come over and they don't speak the language as well, so Norman spoke French, Spanish, he spoke quite a few languages, and obviously you had Gerard Houllier as well that spoke French, and we had a lot of French players and stuff. So yeah, the player liaison officers, they play a big part in helping people settle.
No, I just wanted to ask that because, as I say, you kind of hear things and you're not quite sure how that kind of thing works. But yeah, no, fair enough.
And I think you need it because of the speed that it happens, as you said. Like, you knew for a while that it was coming, but yeah, the ball didn't really start really rolling until transfer deadline day, and you were there at 3 in the morning.
And you have to be careful as well. What people have to realise is if who's coming in. Say, right, Mo Salah signed for Liverpool. He starts going looking for a house. All of a sudden, the house goes up £200,000, £300,000. If he knocks on a door and he's got nobody with him, and somebody recognises Mo Salah, the price goes through the roof.
Yeah.
So people get ripped off. So you need people that have worked for the club, that work with certain people outside of the club that know they're not going to rip the players off, because that does happen. So player liaison officers play huge parts at clubs, and they certainly helped us. We had we went into a hotel to start with, and then we moved down to a flat in Liverpool while we were looking for a house. So the club helped you do that. So they said, look, we've got a few flats here until you find your house or until you know where you want to live.
Chris, are they at Sefton Park? Are they around Sefton Park?
So it was the old cop. Was it the cop? I can't remember the name of the hotel now. It was one Gaza stayed in for about 18 months. Red. I can't remember the name.
Right.
It's one Gaza stayed in for about 18 months when he signed for. But yeah, by there. So then we moved to the city centre in a flat while we were looking for a house, and then we moved by Allerton, so not far from Sefton.
Yeah.
To Allerton and Walton and them areas. But we just found the place where we were staying on. We were just getting knocks on the door quite late at night off fans and stuff. Which, listen, it wasn't a problem if it was during the day, but we were getting them quite late at night, like 11, half 11. So we thought that's why we moved over towards where we are now.
Yeah,
because it was a lot quieter, and that's the only reason why we did do that. But yeah, we've stayed here now where we are now. What, 19 years we've lived where we are in this area. So we won't move now. We love Liverpool area as a whole, and obviously doing a lot with the club still.
Yeah, and I can imagine, like, I know the area whereabout you are, and it's a lovely, lovely part of the northwest. So you've got this whole situation. You've went and signed for Liverpool, which obviously, as you said, I was going to ask you about whether you had any regrets, but as you said, you've been there. You was in the cup. You watched Liverpool play. It was a dream. How was that feeling then? Of you signed during the international break, the players come back, and you're getting ready for what is probably your first start as a Liverpool player.
I went back home. Yeah, so I went back home. So I was still really nervous. So I got to Anfield on the Saturday, still not signed, and I was like, oh, God, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can leave home. I don't know if I can leave my friends. And I was really nervous. And Rick Parry, who was the chief exec at the time, he says, look, he says, you know, I can tell you really nervous. I was still young. You know, I was only just turned 20. So he said, look, do you want to go down to the pitch? So he took me down to the pitch, still not signed the contract. I said, yeah, I could do with just 5 minutes air. So I went down to the pitch, and I actually went and sat where I used to stand as a kid when I was 7 years old in the Kop. And as soon as I stood there, like, all the feelings, and, you know, with my dad, and thinking, this is your dream. This is why you come to watch Liverpool, to play for them one day. And then went straight back up, signed the contract. Everything was done. There was a couple of bits that needed sorting out with Coventry that eventually got done. And then we travelled back down to Leicester. So we travelled back down to home to get all my clothes, get all our stuff. And then we come back up on the Sunday night, and yeah, that was it. And then we were in Liverpool, and I was in training on the Monday morning at the old Melwood. So this is the old, not the Melwood. Obviously, they've moved again, but the Melwood before, it was the old building.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my first day in, and just loved it from day one. It was just a big driving into training, just being at Melwood, and then when we moved into the new building as well, it was just never wanted to leave. Just, you know, I was obsessed with training, obsessed with just being in there, being a Liverpool fan as well. But I didn't really, I mean, you realise how big a club Liverpool is, but it's when you actually go outside of Liverpool and outside the country. And like, we travelled, I think the first pre-season was Singapore, Hong Kong, and I think it might have been Beijing or something like that. And it's just incredible, the scale of fans. You know, there was thousands camping outside the hotel. You just realise, you know, Liverpool's a huge club, but worldwide, the reach that Liverpool Football Club's got is just incredible. It is, you know, one of the biggest clubs in the world, if not the biggest clubs in the world. You know, rivaling Real Madrid, Man U, and it's just, when you go abroad and you see all the fans, it's just like, it's like being in Liverpool. It's like, wow.
Yeah, and so you come in. You got your, as far as I'm aware, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you made your debut in October then of 2001. And
probably, yeah, Grimsby.
Yep.
Was it Grimsby? Yeah.
What was that like? As you said, you knew the global reach of Liverpool. You knew, like, the enormity of being at that club. When you got handed that debut, what was the feelings that were going through you?
I mean, I just wanted to play. Well, when you're a kid, you get asked this all the time. You're not fussed. You're not bothered about the price tag. You're not bothered about the pressure. You're not bothered as a kid. You just want to train. That's all I wanted to do: train, play. I mean, obviously, Jersey signed, which I knew about on the same day. Gerrard said, look, we're signing Jersey. You'll be number 2. Learn from him. Learn from the players. Learn from Joe Corrigan. When you're ready, you'll play. So it was obviously, I knew I was playing against Grimsby, but yeah, just desperate to play. Unfortunately, I mean, I thought it was going to penalties. It was like the 119th minute of extra time. Thought, my God, penalties in the Kop, my debut, you know, stuff dreams are made of, save a few penalties, but then probably had the goal, that probably the best goal I've ever conceded in my life. Phil Jevons, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's just, I mean, I could have dived twice and got nowhere near it. But yeah, that was my first game, and just loved. I mean, just playing at Anfield is, even for anyone that's not a Liverpool fan, going to Anfield to watch a game of football at Anfield, particularly European nights, is something that you lads know. It's just incredible experience, and even though a lot of fans won't admit it, I know a lot of my mates, even Evertonians, that say Anfield's just, the atmosphere is just incredible, but they'll never ever admit it.
Yeah,
on camera.
I know, and obviously you had the chance to play Champions League football and have a part in those amazing European nights. And there's one thing that a lot of people have asked us when we said that you were coming onto the podcast that they want us to clear up, is that season, the 2005 Champions League season. I think you know where I'm going with this. Obviously you got injured during that season. You played the group stage games. What happened in terms of it all? Did you finish the Champions League campaign? Was you there in Istanbul? What happened, Jordan?
Yeah. So obviously I played against Galatasaray in the knockout stage. Anfield 1-3-1, and after that I was struggling before with a back problem. I slipped a disc a few weeks before and was really starting to struggle, and then after that game I just couldn't hardly move anymore. So we kept putting the surgery off and hoping it would be okay, but I just couldn't. It was just starting to affect us in games. Just got away with it during that game, but I think it was after Everton. We played Everton then, and I was struggling before the game. Shouldn't have played really, but then I got told, you got to have the operation. You won't last until the end of the season. So fortunately, I needed to have the operation. But yeah, went out. But then I was a fan then, so I couldn't play. But I was a Liverpool fan, so we was out in Istanbul. Leon, my girlfriend, wife now, we were all out there. Neil Mellor was there with Becky. All the lads that weren't involved were all out there. And yeah, you're Liverpool fans then, as much as you want to be playing. We was there supporting the team, and it was just an incredible, incredible game that's probably only been beat by the Barcelona game at Anfield. Was that a couple of years ago now, which we was at. That game was just incredible. But yeah, for them to do that, and we knew after Olympiacos, sometimes your name's on the cup. Sometimes they say it's written in the stars. After the Olympiacos game, it's not Galatasaray, it was Olympiacos. We just knew we were going to go and win it. You just had this feeling that no matter what, we were just going to go on and win the Champions League, and luckily we did.
And we're going to get into that in a bit in terms of that belief that you have in dressing rooms and stuff like that. And Amo's going to go on to that in a bit. The last question that I want to ask you in this half, just before we take a break and give you a bit of a breather, is obviously, as you said, and it's important to say that obviously you went on to you made 321 appearances across your career. You've had an amazing career at a number of different clubs. Do you feel to a certain extent that obviously the reoccurring back injury, the injuries that you had, do you feel that kind of stopped you from cementing that first team place in front of Jersey in that season? And then obviously Reina came in after that. And is there something in you that's just a little bit frustrated in terms of that?
Gutted. Yeah, gutted. Listen, the injury's not the stuffing out. As I did my PCL, I was out for 8-9 months of that. I broke wrists in training. Yeah, it was just when I got a run, I just got a serious injury that, when you get serious injuries, you're never quite the same again. And when you get a few serious injuries, then it does take its toll on you. Even though I was young, it's more than when you're getting slightly older, you start to feel them injuries. So yeah, I should have made a lot more appearances for Liverpool, but again, I'll do it all again, have all the injuries again, have everything that went with it, just play one game.
Yeah.
And I mean that because it's my team, it's the team I always supported, and I was lucky to be there for 5 years. Yes, I should have played more, but you can't have regrets, and I don't, and I just say I'll do it all again just for one game.
Yeah. And as you said, you live with those things, and these things happen. We've seen injuries, and now they've plagued loads of people's careers, but as you said, you went on. You've had an amazing career. Your dad, I'm sure, made a fortune off that bet for when you played for England and all. And it's obviously we remember, me and Amo are part of that era that we remember you coming up and coming through Liverpool and your whole story. So, as a fan, it's amazing just to be able to listen to you talk about it and get that inside sort of information. And I'm always going to plug a little bit more into that in a minute, looking at the things that you're doing now and the coaching and things like that. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a break to have a breather. And thank you so much to everyone for listening to
Amo
and Danny's Irish Anfield Road.
Find more great shows or join the team at sport-social.co.uk.
All right, folks, welcome back to Ammo
and Danny's Irish Anfield Road.
Well, as per usual, we have guests like Chris on. You just want to sit there and listen, but unfortunately, we don't have all the time in the world, so we're going to cram in as much as we can in the second half of the pod. So Danny went through your career, Chris, at Liverpool, and I would come across and things like that. But, at the end of the day, you played for England. You had 6 years at Wigan. You made brief appearances at Doncaster and Leicester. And then you went to Sheffield Wednesday. So tell me, so here's a question. I was going to ask this question at the end, but I'm going to put it into kind of this part now. So for me, as a Liverpool fan, and this is my blinded eyes, I always think to myself, would any Liverpool or anyone that plays for Liverpool, would they not play for Liverpool for 10 years and make an extra 5 or 6 appearances, I don't know, wherever it may be over the years, and stay at Liverpool, the biggest club? What makes you, as a Liverpool fan, living your dream? Now, okay, Rafa come in, etc., etc. What makes you leave Liverpool Football Club? And with the greatest respect to Wigan, who, I mean, at the time were a Premier League club. I think it was Paul Jewell was the manager, and they were going grand. And as I say, they were a mid-table club which is great for they were definitely punching, if you don't mind me saying. What makes you leave Liverpool and go to Wigan?
Being told by Rafa that he didn't want me and I could go. Simple as that. So, I went on loan.
How did that go, Chris? Is it that harsh, or did you have...
Well, no, I knew I needed to go, because when I went to Liverpool, obviously it was Gerard Houllier and Joe Corrigan was the goalie coach. So the training was a key factor. Joe was, amazing, obviously Man City legend. The training was the same as at Coventry with Oggy, hard work, repetitions, come off the pitch absolutely knackered. Rafa come in, obviously brought a Spanish goalie coach in and just totally changed, told me, didn't want me catching the ball, wanted me to punch everything, just totally against everything that I grew up and what got me to Liverpool. So I knew it was tough. I played under Rafa, obviously, but it was, I think everyone will say the same. It was difficult playing under Rafa because it was his way or no way. He's hugely successful, obviously, but any player that's played will say the same. It was football with Rafa. And fans will probably say, well, that should be that way, but you've got personal lives as well, and things obviously happen in personal lives. And but Gerard Houllier was totally the opposite. He was football, but also he was a man manager. He looks after you, and he knew if there was an issue, always checking on your families. So when Rafa come in, it changed, and the training was I was just going to games not sharp. I was asking for more training and being told that I didn't need it. This is the way you train now, and so it became very difficult. So I went on loan to West Brom. Yeah, 2005, 2006, played 10 games, things went great. I got my form back. Joe Corrigan, who was at Liverpool, was the goalie coach at West Brom with Brian Robson. So that's obviously a big part of why I went there, because I knew I was going to get the training I needed. Quickly got my form back. Unfortunately, got a real bad injury. Kevin Davis hit me in the side. I come out for a cross, took the cross, and Kevin Davis sort of come into me and kneed me right in the kidney area. And I knew there was an issue, and I got to half-time, didn't feel well, got to the end of the game, could hardly move, got home, went toilet, just peed blood everywhere, and collapsed basically on the floor and got taken to hospital. And he'd lacerated my kidney, so basically tore my kidney during the game. But stupidly carried on, and then I was out for a long, long time with that. So went back to, obviously, to Liverpool 2006, and Rafa was saying, look, don't want you anymore. Going to go and buy a foreign goalkeeper. Obviously bought Pepe Reina, which, listen, you can't argue with who.
Chris, can I just put in there? Sorry, how does that conversation go? So you're very you mentioned it blasé as if it was just like, right, Chris, I don't want you. Is it that harsh, or is it?
They called me back from holiday as well. I was on holiday at the time, and I got a call saying, we need to see you. Can you come back a couple of days early? So I come back, and then went in, and I'm thinking, I didn't know what I was thinking actually, but I was thinking, this hopefully it's a good sign. He's, going to welcome me back. But then he just said, look, we're going to sign another keeper. You can go. You're not in my plans. Oh, and wow. I knew I needed to leave. Yeah, but I knew I needed to leave. I knew that for my own career, I was still only 26. Missed a lot of football, obviously through injury. So I knew, even though I didn't want to, I knew things weren't going to happen at Liverpool for me. I wasn't going to play. I wasn't going to enjoy it, even though it was Liverpool. I didn't enjoy the training with a goalie coach. I was only going to go backwards. If I stayed, I was only going to go backwards, and that could have ruined my career completely. So I knew I needed to leave, but I knew I needed to go somewhere that was ideally local, if possible, but also somewhere that had an English goalie coach. So Paul Jewell rang me. I was up in a wedding in Scotland, and he rang me and said, look, I believe you're available. I know you've had your injuries. Want you to come here on loan, and if I like what I see, I'll sign you straight away before the window shuts. And I knew the goalie coach was Gary Walsh, who was, just a great guy, great goalie coach. Knew the work I would get. He called me and said, "Listen, I know what you need." Joe Colgan's rang me. He said, "This is the best way you work." He says, "I'll give you all that and more." And just as soon as I walked through the door at Wigan, it just clicked. It just felt right. And it's the best I've played. The 4 years from 2006 to 2010 was the best I've played during my career. I won quite a few awards, but just happy, just, hard work training. Then obviously Paul left and Steve Bruce come in. And Gary left, unfortunately, after a while to go with, where did he go? He went somewhere else, went down to West Brom, I think. But then Nigel Spink come in as goalie coach, who again was just the same as Gary Walsh and Joe Corrigan. And just the 4 years then were just incredible. Then obviously Roberto come in and brought a Spanish goalie coach in again. And I just thought,
no.
I just knew where it was going. I just knew where it would end up, and just totally changed the training again. Just very slow, very not hard work. It was a lovely chap, the goalie coach, Iñaki, but he actually went to Everton as well with Roberto. But he just not what I'd been brought up on, and not what makes me tick, and what makes me, the goalkeeper that got me to Liverpool.
And Chris, you went to Wigan. we're chatting off there, and I was saying a good few years ago I went to a Wigan away game, Liverpool Wigan, hoping to get tickets. I was probably 16, 17, got tickets in the Wigan end. And I mean, Wigan were at that stage were punching above the weight, in my opinion. Sorry to say that. They were a solid Premier League team, and players like yourself. Did you mention Titus Bramble there? I think I remember Emil Heskey was at Wigan at one stage as well, wasn't he? I mean, that team. Did you ever hit? You never did get to Europe, but you were close, were you? And
we were
4 years. You say were the best 4 years. How good was that team, and how much did you enjoy? Because the stadium was never full, was it? It was always kind of.
Yeah, it was a rugby stadium. You had the Warriors, obviously, it's a rugby town, Wigan, but we had the best group of lads you could imagine. Just the dressing room, wins and loses of games. We just had a brilliant dressing room. Kev Kilban, Leighton Baines, Ryan Taylor, Titus was there, Mileski. I mean, there's too many names to make. We just had a brilliant Ariane Dezou, who was there at the start, was just an incredible captain. We just had a brilliant dressing room that there was no issues with at all. Got on great. We all socialised as families together off the pitch. And when Brucey, we were sixth coming into January. We were flying, and there was obviously talk about Europe and stuff like that. But then obviously a club being Wigan, unfortunately the Vultures come and they took Ryan Taylor. Emil Heskey went to Villa. Wilson Palacios went to Spurs. Antonio Valencia went to Man U. I mean, them two lads, Palacios and Valencia were just brilliant players. But we lost them for, I don't think we won for about 10 games after that, once we lost them players. But we still finished ninth. We finished 9th or 10th that season, which for Wigan was like, it was like finishing in Champions League. So we had Steve Bruce, one of the best I've ever worked with as a manager. Him and Gerard Hilley were just my two best managers I've worked with. Yeah,
I remember going to a game, as I say, and it was 1-1, Torres scored, and then you were saying before you got man of the match in that game, and I don't remember the game all that well because it's that many years ago, but I mean, to keep the likes of Torres and Gerard, and they were in the peak, that must have been a proud moment, especially against the former club.
Yeah, we had a good team though. I mean, we went 1-0 down, but Titus scored, and we probably should have won that game. Even though I was man of the match, we had chances. They had chances. But yeah, it was a great result for us, and Mrs was there, and all my friends were sat in the away end. But yeah, it was the first time back at Anfield as well since I'd left, and it was it was weird going back, but obviously then I just wanted to prove to everyone that I could still play, and I was still a good goalkeeper, and luckily I did that in that game. And
Chris, so we'll go into we're going to go into the latter part of your Sheffield Wednesday and Preston and stuff in a wee while, but I mean England. So let's clear this up. Your father, or was it your grandfather, made a bet for you to play at England before 30?
It was my dad. So it was after that game. So my dad put a bet on, but we used to go down to like a working men's club on a Sunday and a Thursday, and I used to do this. Like, this was when I was a kid, and I used to do the scoring for the snooker and the darts. So there was a lot of lads, a lot of older chaps down there with my dad in the darts league and the snooker league. They all threw £10s and £20 in, because my dad was actually, I mean, £100 a lot of money back then. They were actually only allowed to put £100 on it, 100 to 1, which the odds were terrible. If I always said, if I'd have gone into the bookies with my dad when he put the bet on, they'd have given him 1,000,000 to 1, because I wasn't in the best shape. I was quite a chubby lad, and he'd have got a lot more odds back then. But it was terrible odds, really, when you think. And they couldn't anymore. So there's about 6 or 7 of them that went in on it.
How does an England call-up happen? So how does, tell me the process. I know you played the under-21 quite a bit, but how does a senior England call-up happen?
I was involved quite a few squads, and it should have happened before, really. I should have made my debut quite a few years before, but I mean, we had some brilliant keepers around at the time. But yeah, I mean, I was in the school. It was actually before I made my debut for Wigan, so 2006. I'd just signed for Wigan on loan, and this game was on the Wednesday at Old Trafford against Greece. Got told I was going to play the second half a couple of days before. And then I made my debut for Wigan on the Saturday, so it was a bit of a whirlwind, but all the family were there. Great. People say, pinnacle of your career, and no, it wasn't for me. Signing for Liverpool, playing for Liverpool will never be topped by anything. If I'd have made 50 appearances for England, it'd still be all club football for me. That's your bread and butter, and obviously signing for Liverpool, that'll never be topped. Delighted I did it, delighted my family was there, delighted I won the bet for a few people, which I didn't know about until the day before. But yeah, it wasn't the pinnacle for me.
Well, fair enough. So obviously, Roberto had been coming at Wigan, and he kind of knew where it was going. You spells at Leicester and Doncaster. Were you at Wigan and you made loan spells to them, or and then you eventually kind of settled at Sheffield Wednesday, which is still a huge club. Kind of talk us, Chris, now, because this is where we're going to talk a little bit more about you personally and what you're doing at the moment. And anyone listening to this podcast now, and anyone that knows your story, Chris, knows that mental health has been a big thing with you. So if you can talk us from when you signed for Sheffield Wednesday back to Preston, eventually to Bury, to where you're at now and where you realised your journey within it's depression that you suffered with. And we just want to hear you talk about where you went from Sheffield Wednesday to where you are now.
Yeah, well, I left Wigan. I mean, the last 2 years I didn't play. 2010 to 2012 didn't play much. She played at LA Absey, so them 2 years are quite tough, but still near home. Football's not the be all and end all. Family's more important, always has been for me. So, but then obviously my contract was up, and I didn't have many options, to be honest, because people thought I was injured for the last 2 years. I wasn't. I just wasn't picked. The manager just preferred somebody else. So, but I was very conscious that I knew I still had a lot to give, and I knew where I went next. I knew I needed to go back to a British goalie coach again. That was the biggest thing. So I had a couple of sniffs here and there. A lot were down in London. I thought, I'm not moving down there. I'm not going to move the family. My daughter was in school. She'd just started school, proper school at 6 years old. So I thought, I'm not moving down there. And then I got a call off Sheffield Wednesday, and Andy Rhodes, who's Jordan Rhodes' his dad, he's the goalie coach at Sheffield Wednesday, rang me and said, look, come here. I know what you need. I know exactly the way you need to train. He says, come here and you won't regret it. So it was only it's not far Sheffield from where we are, but it's a nightmare journey. So it takes you probably an hour and a half, 2 hours on a good journey, because you have to go through Manchester and that. So I signed for Sheffield Wednesday, and I said, listen, I'll commute. And but it was just a change of routine. It was just like going from one extreme to the other, and people say, well, it's still football. Yes, it was, but the travelling in the car, long periods on your own, missing stuff back at home, not being able to pick my daughter up from school like I'd always done, or drop her off at nursery, pick her up from nursery, missing school plays, getting home late, having to get up the next morning to go. It become really, really difficult. The club as a whole, I mean, like Liverpool, the fans at Sheffield Wednesday are just incredible. It is like they say, it's a massive. It really is. It's a huge club, massive club. Obviously, big ties and emotional ties with Liverpool. Obviously, from from the Hillsborough disaster, and it was just an incredible club. The lads, again, the dressing room was brilliant. I'd have walked a long time before if the dressing room weren't as good. We had a great group of lads in there. And for the first year, the football sort of took my mind away from not feeling great. Second season, towards the end of the second season, it started to affect me. I was just thinking about getting home, and then what time do I have to be up tomorrow to get back to training? But the club were brilliant with us. They knew there was sort of a problem. They didn't delve into it. They just said, look, if you need to talk, we're here. If we can help you in any way. So they gave me extra days off and stuff like that, where I'd do the gym work here instead of going in for a cool down. But then 2015, just the 3 years, I just didn't know. I didn't really know what I was feeling, to be honest. I just didn't want to do anything. I just withdrawn, didn't answer the phone when I got home. Didn't want to get up in the mornings to go to training. So I turned down a new deal. I was actually going to sign. I was in my training kit, 2015, new deal on the table, pen in my hand, and I just froze and said, look, I can't sign this. I need to get back home. and literally left. And it took everyone by surprise. It was upsetting. Andy Rhodes, my goalie coach, sort of knew there was an issue. Got back home and thought, well, I'm going to sign for a team local now to where I live, just so it's easy. Get back home and everything will be okay, and the routine will change again, and I'll sort of snap out of it, which is the worst thing you can say to anyone suffering with mental health. But that's what I thought at the time. So I didn't have any team. Walked away from Sheffield Wednesday. Didn't have any other team to go to. I said, well, if nobody comes up, then I'll retire.
What age was you then?
What was it? 2015. So what would have been? What was that? 6 years ago. So 34. 34. So still young in terms of goalkeeping. And I was going to go back to Wigan, and this is the thing that probably sent me even worse. So I was going to go back to Wigan, thinking, right, get back to Wigan. Gary Colwell was the manager. Played with Gaz at Wigan. He was my captain when I was there. Got on great, socialised off the pitch. Not a problem. I thought, well, going back to there, this could really help me start to feel better. Going back to Wigan, place which I played the best football. Yes, the last 2 years weren't great, but Gaz is there now. He's the manager. So he said, right, I want you here. So I turned down a couple of other clubs in the area as well. I said, look, Gaz, is this deal going to happen? He went, yeah, listen, it's going to happen. So I went into the training ground and I got there in the morning ready to sign, and they said, we just got to sort a few bits out. You need to go for a medical. And I said, well, the medical records have been sent over from Sheffield Wednesday. And since I left, people think but since I left Liverpool in 2006, my injury record or my fitness record was 97%. So I'd never missed any training, hardly any games at all after I left Liverpool. And a lot of people don't realise that.
Yeah.
And so I said, guys, what you get? I'm 34. I'm not a kid. I said, the fitness records there. Sheffield Wednesday sent over all the records. I was never hardly injured. I didn't miss anything, hardly anything. And he said, well, we need to go. So went for scans and all that. Come back, and they said, we're just waiting for the results. You'll sign tomorrow. So I went back in the next morning, thinking. I said, Gaz, don't mess me about, because I wasn't in the greatest place. So I said, don't. And he said, no, it's getting done today. It's getting done. So anyway, he come downstairs, and this was like in the afternoon. He said, can you just wait half an hour? I've just got to go out to training. I'll come back in. And I was thinking, this is disrespectful. And so he's gone out to training, come back in after about an hour and a half. I'm sitting in the canteen. He says, come upstairs. Can't sign you. I said, what do you mean you can't sign me? He says, you failed your medical. I went, how have I failed a medical? I said, my fitness record for the last 10 years has been 97%. Last 3 years at Sheffield Wednesday, I didn't miss a game for 2 years. Third season, Kieran Westwood coming, I was on the bench for every game. Didn't miss any training. The records are there. No, it's too much of a risk for us. We can't do it. Too much. I said, Gaz, you are joking, aren't you? And left, said a few words to him, said a few words to the physio, and left. So I'm in a bad state anyway, mentally, and to have that happen, I just thought, I'm done here. But then I got a call off Preston, which is just up the road. I thought, right, well, I'll go there. Championship, in the higher league than Wigan as well. Wigan were in League One at the time, and in the higher league. So I went there. Shouldn't have really signed. I went there as number 2, which I was happy with because I didn't have the pressure of playing, which again speaks volumes. That's not the way it should have been. And just got through the year really, but still just felt really bad. And then my contracts, they offered me a new contract at Preston, went in to sign it on the Monday after the season, played the last 6 games of the season, did quite well. Said, yeah, there's a new deal with it. Come in on the Monday, sign it. Went in on the Monday, sign it. We're not going to sign you now. You're too old. We're going to sign some younger lad. So again, you're feeling bad anyway, and then you get these knocks again. And I just thought, I can't take this anymore. I'm done. But then Berry come in and said, look, come with us. And I shouldn't have signed. I really shouldn't have signed. And went away pre-season, was dreading leaving home for a week to go away to Portugal, and just thought, this is not going to end well, this. And after the second day, I just broke down. I said, look, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to play football. Don't want to, I didn't really want to live. I just didn't want to live at the time. I just didn't want to wake up in the mornings, couldn't wait to get to sleep. And that's when I rang and when I spoke to Neil. And I said, listen, I just don't want to do anything anymore. He said, look, you got mental health problems, you got depression, you need to get help. And I rang the PFA and met the PFA, and that's when things started to get better. Met a counsellor, started talking, retired from football because I thought I need to get myself ready, get myself right. And things got good for about 18 months, 2 years, and then in 2019, I started to miss football. I started to miss the routine. Started to miss the changing room, the routine of being a footballer, having a purpose to get up in the mornings, I suppose. Because a lot of people think, well, after football retires, you just go on holidays, play golf, and I did that, but you get bored. you just get bored of doing it, and I just needed something to do. So, but I felt myself slipping backwards, and I thought I don't want to go back to where I was before. So, rang the PFA and said, look, I need to go into the Sporting Chance to really get to the bottom of things. But there was about a 3-month waiting list at the Sporting Chance, and I said, look, I can't wait that long. So me and the wife just googled local places because I wanted somewhere quite local, and a place in North Wales come up, which is only an hour away, called Parkland Place. And I checked in the next day, and I was there for about 3.5 weeks, and the best thing I ever did. And wow. I was in there with, they treat everything. Obviously, there's addictions in there, there's mental health, there's trauma, there's abuse, but it all comes back to mental health and depression. So I was in there with some incredible people and still do a lot of work from now. But they just learn to give you coping mechanisms when you are feeling bad, because mental health, say 1 in 4, it's not. It's more like 3 in 4. And I think over the last year, it's tested everybody. I think everybody's really struggled over the last year with the pandemic. And it just gives you coping mechanisms. So I know now if I start to feel bad and have bad days or wake up in a bad mood, I don't know if I go out for, like I went out for 40, 50 mile bike ride this morning, felt great. Come back. So exercise, talking, they're the key things for mental health. And even though you don't feel like doing them, as soon as you do them, and having a structure, having a plan to the day, having a purpose to get up in the mornings is huge. It's so easy when you feel bad just to lie there and not do anything, or phone in sick or whatever. It's the worst things you can do. So, that's where I am up to now. And, I'm not going to say I'm great all the time, because I'm not, but I know now what I need to do sort of to live with mental health, because I think I'll always have it. And I think a lot of people, it doesn't just go away. You learn to cope with it and learn to get coping mechanisms which help you.
Chris, and what are you? So I know you're actively involved in the LFC Foundation, and we were chatting off there about a walk and building a coast to coast type of walk that you were planning, but obviously lockdown happened. So what are you actually doing with yourself now on a day-to-day basis?
Well, that was the thing. So when I went to Parkland Place, they said, look, what are you going to do? You can't just go home and not do anything. And I just said, well, I want to do something. I wanted, like, coaching. I could have gone into coaching, but coaching full time is hard work, and you're away long hours, and I didn't want to do that. Family's always been more important for me. And obviously, jobs in football, you could be in a job for 2 months and be out of it straight away. So it's very insecure. So I wanted to go down the mental health route. So, I started doing little bits of the foundation. Didn't really know exactly the extent that they did. What they do is incredible in Liverpool. And I've lived up here 19 years, and I never knew just exactly how much they do. So I met with them and said, look, I'd love to get involved if I can. So the club, Liverpool, John Achterberg, Matt McCann, Mark Morris at the academy, they've just been incredible. They are why they're the best club in the world. They look after former players. Neil does a lot of work with them. They look after players that have left 6 or 7 years ago. They're just amazing. So they said, look, whatever you need, we're here for you. So, I'll start doing stuff with them. Got my own goalkeeper academy just down the road, where I do, got about 15, 16 keepers. Obviously, it's not happened the last year through COVID, but that's starting back up in a couple of weeks. And then I do part-time work. So I still need my football fix, though. So I thought I still need to be involved with the dressing room, involved in football. So an offer come in off Colne FC just up near Blackburn, which is about 40 minutes away. So actually, when I was at Liverpool Women's as manager, the girl there, Rhiannon Roberts, her husband was the manager. And she said, he rang me and said, look, do you know any goalie coaches, like, unless you want it, like, joking around, thinking there's no way I'd take it. And I said, well, listen, I'm not doing anything. I've got a couple of spare days. It was on a Tuesday and Thursday night, and games on a Saturday. I said, it's perfect for me. As long as it doesn't interfere with Liverpool games or work I do for Liverpool, then I'm more than happy to do that. So I've got a good mix now, real good mix. I do bits and bobs. And I've just started helping out down at Liverpool Academy for the younger age groups now as well. So really enjoy doing what I'm doing. I like doing different things. I don't just like doing one same thing. I like keeping my mind stimulated and doing different stuff. And then the walk is brilliant.
Yeah, well, this Coast to Coast, tell us a little bit about this before we do our quick fire questions.
Mark Crosley. So Mark Crosley, who big norms, he found himself out of a job last January, just gone. So a year or so ago, out of a job for the first time in 33 years in football. We said, what do I do? So he started going on walks, and he openly admits that if somebody would have said during his career or when he was a coach, come for a walk, he'd have said, what do I want to go for a walk for? So, but then he started going on walks, loved it. He knew I walked. So I had a dog for 14 years before the dog we've got now. So I've always been on walk, big on walking. So he started this thing up, and he just named it Walking's But he said, look, will you get involved with it? I know you do a lot of walking. Then a few more got involved, and Dean Windass, John Parkin, then some comedians got involved on the circuit with norms. And then it's just blew up now. There's a lot of people that we don't know on there that have suffered with trauma, suicide. It's a mental health charity, basically. We've turned it into a charity, so we've just been licensed for a charity. We were meant to be doing Kilimanjaro this July, but obviously we've had to cancel it till next July. But we're still hoping to do coast to coast, so it's 90 miles in 5 days.
Wow.
It's going to be a little bit. Obviously, it's depending on if we can by then or not. But there's a lot of plans, a lot of golf days booked in, and everything we raise goes to, because this was pre-COVID. So this was for mental health. And then COVID come along, and we've seen the great work the NHS were doing. So we said, right, we'll do it for the NHS and for the mental health charities. So it is going to be huge. And there's a lot of people on there now posting videos that we don't know. It's just basically getting out, walking when you're feeling bad, when you're feeling down, and the benefits of just getting out on a walk with somebody else or on your own, and how much better it makes you feel. So there's a lot of people putting videos on each day, which is helping a lot of people.
Well, fair, hey, listen, absolutely respect. No, Danny there, the game walker, and stuff like that. So fair play to, because we actually did a podcast a couple of months ago, and it was just called Football and Mental Health, and we basically dived into the fact of that. We're lucky that we, people said football shouldn't be on during the lockdown, but it actually helped with a lot of people with mental health. And we actually had a podcast all about that. It wasn't about Liverpool. So we're thinking about doing Football Mental Health Part 2. We can invite you on for that for sure. And fair play to everything you've done. We know in over January and up until this point, you take calls of people struggling with mental health. You give up your time for that. So that's well known. And we just want to say, as behalf of 2 massive Liverpool fans and just people who relate to you right now. I'm not seeing you as a footballer now. I'm seeing you as Chris, the person that is, an advocate for mental health. So just want to say thank you and fair respect to you. But just before we end, now I had 5 questions. Now Danny's got a couple. I had 5 questions to ask you, but you've dived into 3 of them on me already, so I can't even ask them. But I've got a couple of questions that people have asked. Then Nanny's got a couple, and that'll kind of be us. But so I'm going to go fire into them. So the first question is off Marty Chappell. He's a big listener. Hello, Marty. He asks, in as quick as you can answer, kind of thing. What was Carragher like in the dressing room? Was he really bad, or was he a CUNT or such? What was he like, or was he supportive?
No, it was brilliant. No, it was brilliant. Demanding, but listen, you don't stay at a club like Liverpool for 17 years unless you are, you love the club and you deserve to be there. So, no, he was. You had to tell him to zip it sometimes, and he's, when he was shouting. But no, listen, he absolutely go down as one of the Liverpool legends of all time, and rightly so.
100%. And tell me this: there was an incident. I mean, this is all rumour, but this is where we get you on to clear this type of thing up. What happened with the medal and Scott Carson? So we went, as you do with guests, we go on Wikipedia, and it says that you're a Champions League winner with Liverpool. So what happened? We hear that Scott Carson offered you his medal, or how did that come across? What happened?
Yeah, simple as that. On the pitch at the end, he said, "Look, you played in a lot of the games. You deserve this. Take my medal." And I said, "Listen, no, it's yours. You're here on the day." He played against, Roma as well in a few of the games as well, so he deserved it. And you feel, listen, it's difficult, and some fans probably won't understand this, but if you don't play in the final, you can play in every game leading up to the final. But if you don't play in that final, that one-off unique game, win or lose, then I just didn't feel as though I deserved it. And some people might find that mad. But I just felt, I wasn't involved. I wasn't in the squad on the day. So I just said Scotty. That's Scotty. We've been friends for years and years, and that's just the type of lad he is. But yeah, I said, look, I can't take that. That's yours.
Yeah, I think he's at Man City at the moment, isn't he? He's on loan from Derby at Man City. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question. This is like a personal question we've dived into a little bit. So obviously you're doing a bit of part-time goalkeeper coaching. You're doing, the stuff with the mental health and LFC families and stuff. But here's my question. So last week it was all over Sky Sports News. So I can't remember what team it was. It was Newport or something along that. There was a 50-year-old on the bench. Chris, you're 39 years of age. What if you were if the right offer come in? Do you know, over Preston or say Bury Reformed or a team coming now? Do you think you could do a job? And I mean, for me personally, 39, you could probably still have 4 or 5 years as a professional footballer. Would that ever be a possibility, or are you happy enough doing what you do?
No, I was thinking about that last night, and if everything was fine and I wouldn't have suffered with the mental health, I'd still be playing now, definitely, and I'd still back myself. Could I come back now after being out for 4 years? Probably not. I just think it would take too much to get used to, being age as well. It's different. You're not as though you're 29. So, I'd love to try, but I don't think I would be. But I think it would be extremely difficult. But if I wouldn't have suffered with the issues I had, then yeah, I think I know I would be, because I'm still fit. still probably fitter now than I was when I was younger, but it's a different type of fitness, goalkeeping and playing football, obviously. So, but yeah, it would certainly be interesting. But I have been offered a few times, but politely turned them down.
All right, fair enough. Right, Danny, have you any kind of quick questions before we?
Yeah, so 2 questions I want to ask you, Chris, just in finishing. First one is the classic that lots of people asked. Who's the best player you've played with? Who's the best player you played against?
Yeah, good question. So Stevie G, obviously, played with and against him, obviously, when I was at Wigan. Just incredible player. And then Cristiano Ronaldo was the other one.
Oh.
When he was at Man U. Yeah, when you seen his name on the team sheet, you thought, please get injured after a couple of minutes, and nothing serious. Nothing serious injury, just a pull or something that puts you out for a week. But yeah, them two were just, I mean, I've been lucky to play, Man U when they had Giggs, Scholes, Beckham, that team was frightening. But yeah, Stevie and Ronaldo. It's
a good couple of names to be able to put in, to be fair. And last question would be, a lot of people asking again, what do you make of Liverpool's season this season, and how do you change a dressing room? Like, you've been in loads of dressing rooms over your career. Obviously, there's something going on in the background of Liverpool for it to change so dramatically. How does a dressing room change?
No, not really. No, the 2 biggest things, the facts are the injuries that we've had. It's not an excuse, it's the injuries, but the biggest thing is not having the fans there. Not having the fans at Anfield it changes everything. You don't beat Barcelona 4-0 if there's an empty stadium. Simple as that. And the sooner the fans get back, some teams it's worked out for, some teams it's not. The pressure of not playing in front of the home fans has helped some teams, but for us, we miss our fans. And the injuries, listen, come on. I mean, defensively, if you're going to be successful, defensively, you look at all the teams over the years that have won things. Arsenal going back to the invincible Seaman, Winterburn, Dixon, Adams. Chelsea, John Terry and Ashley Cole, Peter Cech. You look at all the teams that have been successful over the years, it's based on solidarity and defence. We had it when we won the Champions League and the league. Not many changes at all in that defensive line. This season's just been completely the opposite. And it's derailed, and it's tough for the players as well. People have got to realise when you've seen your teammates get injured and, big players as well, it's tough. You've got obviously a massive connection with them, and you become firm friends with a lot of the players you play with in the squads. So they're the 2 biggest reasons why Liverpool has struggled this year: the injuries and the fans not being there. Simple as that. There's no, there's nothing going on behind the scenes that a lot of people think. The players are not falling out, and also it's extremely tough to be a footballer at the minute. And people say, well, you're getting paid so much money, which it's easy to throw the money at, but it's playing in front of empty stadiums. We hear the noise on the TV. That doesn't get played in the stadiums. You are literally playing in a noiseless stadium, and that is extremely tough to get going, to get motivated. And again, people say, well, you paid that amount of money, you should be motivated. It's got nothing to do with that. That's the easiest one to throw at players, which is my biggest pet hate. Well, they paid that much, you should get on with it. But it's so difficult. You're in a bubble, you can't do anything else. You literally travel to training, you travel home, travel to training, travel to home, can't do anything else, can't do any of the other stuff like a lot of people can't do at the minute. And it is extremely tough, and that's when you need your fans there to pick you up, and they're not there at the minute. So the sooner they're back, we'll see a different animal, and the sooner the players are fit and we've got a fully fit squad, we'll see the Liverpool that we all know and love.
Of course. Well, as I say, that's a great way to end, and we hope. One final little question, Chris, before we go. Next time you're in Ireland, will you come and have a pint with us?
In Ireland, yeah, definitely, yeah. Absolutely
100%.
Will.
Yeah, so yeah, as I say, we said to Neil, and I know you're good links to them. So
he'll be home early though. He can't hold his drink, Neil.
Oh,
He'll admit that as well. He knows
I message away to him on Instagram, so I'll let him know about that and send him the pod.
Yes,
but listen, Chris, it's been a pleasure. As I say, it's been we've been fanboys. We watched you. We are of that era with the Champions League, of that season and stuff. And fair play to you. Thanks for coming on, and good luck with all you do. And yeah, all I can say is thank you so much. So thank you for listening to Ammo
and Danny's
Irish Anfield Road.